Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
Welcome everybody to the FPV News. Good to be here with you and with you, Blunty. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, good with me. I wasn't sure if you were trying to tell me to talk, but I never know if you're like, hold on, I've got to fix this, or if you're like, I'm waiting on you to say something. So
Oh, I
just
was
wanna
waiting
let
for the music to finish sort of ringing out.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
I can't hear. Okay,
Oh, you can't hear
gotcha.
the music. Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the music
10-4.
was like, I always like to wait for you to begin to talk and then interrupt you and shush you.
That's fair.
Yeah, the audience loves that when they feel like I'm disrespecting you. Have they ever felt like you were disrespected? Has anyone ever said, "Hey, Blunty, you got to take it easy on Bardwell," or I'm
don't
not
know.
sure.
Not offhand, I don't reckon, but I'm sure somebody recalls the time.
I'm the big meanie, of course. Yeah, little do they know the things you say before the cameras start rolling.
Yes.
Yes. I have a cold today. At least that's what I assume it is. So we always start by saying, how are you? And then you're fine and I'm fine. And we do the news. I have a cold. I'm going to acknowledge that. I will try to mute for the worst of the sniffling. It's not as bad as it sounds. But I do got to acknowledge that as we go in. So, but
Yeah.
we're not going to let that get in the way of the news.
Yeah, hopefully you're on the back end of it and you're going to feel better and it's not going to be bad. So.
Yeah, hopefully. I still have a cold. I just had a cold. Yesterday was the first day I had the cold, Mike Bergman. How do I still have the cold? The colds usually take longer than that to finish up. It's about Cool Cat thinks it's about time you started disrespecting me. Yeah, stop being so nice.
I've had it up to here.
Yeah. One AFPV thinks you're overexposed. I just think you look angelic. You got that porcelain skin.
Exposure is a constant battle.
Yeah.
When you're not in a closed studio.
Yeah, you're nearly in a closed studio. I mean, you shoot at your desk all the time.
Yeah,
right?
But I have windows, and I have house lights, and
Oh, that's your first mistake. You got to get the blackout curtains. Alrighty. We are going to talk about news in the world of FPV. We've got some big stories this week. A couple of pre-orders that have sold really, really well. HDZero, Walksnail, some rumors. It wouldn't be the news without DJI rumors. Yeah. So, where should we start, Blunty?
Well, I think we're going to start with the first of the 3 digital systems we're going to talk about today, Fun Digital Chat. On this news, the first one is HDZero released a goggle, or at least for pre-order, they released a goggle. And a bunch of users decided to report on the totals because you were able to see them if you type in a bigger number and you hit apply, it tells you how many were left. So users were tracking the goggle sales over the time there, and through the different data points that were had and stuff, we got a post. It looks like it took around 40 hours to sell the goggles, and nobody knows how many they started with, but I would guess somewhere 350 plus, but we don't really know if it could be as much as 500, could be as little as 350 probably. So
this is the number of goggles left, 315 units left at 10 minutes after launch, which they got by just trying to buy 999 units and seeing how many they could.
Correct.
That's why we don't know where they started.
Yeah, and I didn't see anybody update with official numbers or anything, so we just have to speculate. But they could have sold, who knows, 150 in the first 10 minutes. We really don't know.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Sold out in 40 hours, at least 315. Could be more.
Yeah.
I mean, it is more than 315. It's however many they sold in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, could it theoretically be 1,000? Seems like a stretch.
That seems like a lot. Yeah, I would say the max is probably 500 or 600 is where that first number was at, and then they sold a few hundred in that first 10 minutes if at the most. But yeah, we really don't know. So maybe we'll see figures from that at some point. But yeah, we do have at least this idea to see. We got a pretty good sales tick there. People were steadily buying them for pretty much the whole time until they sold out. So that does look like a pretty good sign for when they release finally, because these are pre-orders. People had to pre-order these too. So they're ordering something they're not even going to get right away. So.
Yeah, the HDZero goggles, very exciting. I will be getting a set and reviewing them. I am looking forward to checking them out, checking out the new 90 FPS camera too. HDZero trading resolution for frame rate. I think it's 540p resolution, 90 FPS, which many people, I've always said that to me, HDZero, the signal is 720p. All of the pixels are real. But if you actually look at the amount of detail in the image, it doesn't feel like a 720p image to me. And I've said it feels like maybe about 540p-ish. So for them to go down to 540p, I wonder if you actually really even lose that much.
Yeah, I would be interested to see what you get there, because as we've talked about, there's no buffer in there. They're not doing compression, so it's kind of all passed through. So yeah, I would definitely be interested to see the difference and how much loss there really is, or what the change is there. So for sure.
Yeah.
But you can, if you've got these goggles coming or you plan on buying them, you can definitely check that out.
Yeah. Curious how many of the people who bought these goggles are buying them because they're excellent analog goggles and don't own HDZero. There's no way for us to know that, but I bet it's at least one person.
For sure. I would guess it's quite a few people. Yeah.
There are relatively few really good analog goggles still being made. I mean, we've got the Orca HD 1 pilot, or the Orca FPV 1 pilot. We've got the Skyzone Skyo 4 X, of course. The HDO2 still being made? I think so.
Yep. They just did a new version with better adjustments on the bottom, so they're definitely making it. Yeah.
Oh, that's what the 2.1 is.
Yep.
Is that newsworthy? Let's see.
It's I don't know. There's new knobs on the bottom of the HDO2, if that's interesting, for sure. So
some people.
anyway. HDO2 V2.1.
So having another really up-to-date analog goggle, HDMI input, all that stuff, very, very interesting. It's of course going to be, when are they supposed to ship?
I'm not sure if I've seen an actual official date. I've seen a bunch of like around dates, but I don't. Maybe somebody in chat can tell us. Because I've seen a few different dates, like the 14th of next month I heard, and then the end of the month, and then I'm not sure what the exact date is. I assume people who are buying them are getting a date. So
that's sooner than I would have thought. I would have thought after the new year, but sounds like it's really December 15th. Says Bobby Bags.
Yeah, 15th of December. That's So if that's correct, then yeah, it won't be too long.
That's what people are saying in the Discord as well. Okay. Yes, Brundlefly, you can use them. Or sorry, Angel Misu, you can use them for analog. In fact, they have a module bay that attaches to the side, hangs off the side of the goggles. And they have the best analog deinterlacer of any analog goggle around today.
Yeah. Will be very good for analog, especially because it's it's a good quality screen, and then it's again that like you said, that deinterlacing solution that's tied into the screen and in the main chip, so that should do it much better. You shouldn't get any artifacting or lines in that when it's doing that deinterlacing.
Yeah. Okay. L0 has some insight. They are selling the analog module bay adapter separately. He says when he first checked, they had 196 available. Now there are 194 left available. So if we... Yeah.
Yeah. I assume that's like a separate SKU, right? Like, so, like, I wonder if you do like a bundle or whatever, like if you get... I don't know. I can't. I bet they've sold more than two.
Were they sold in a bundle with the analog module bay adapter?
I'm not sure.
Or did you have to buy it separately?
I guarantee they've sold more than two. I would put money on the fact they sold more than two.
All right. So looking forward to hearing more about that when they come out, but very exciting that they sold out, and hopefully more positive news for HDZero going forward. It is separate, says Afrolu, not in a bundle. So nobody was getting those analog module adapters.
I guarantee they restocked them or something. They sold more than two. I'll put my credit on that. There's no way they sold two. Like,
I'm going to ask Carl.
That's crazy.
Ryan Quellet. Ryan Quellet is here. Ryan Quellet is here in the chat. Ryan, do you want to tell us how many analog modules? Have you sold two of the analog modules? That would be good for them if he were to say, yes, nobody wants the analog modules. They all love HDZero and are buying the goggles to use with HDZero only. Ryan, if you want to comment on that, feel free. If you don't, that's fine too. Happy for sure. I don't usually do a lot of responding to chat.
Two people in our Discord said they bought it. So
that's two. That's them. That's the two.
3 people. So there's another one. So.
One of them's lying. Ryan Quellet says 60% of goggles sold with the analog module from his estimate.
That's a realistic.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course. I don't know if they sold more than 2. I'm just asking. Questions. Isn't that what you're supposed to say? You talk shit, you make stuff up, and then when people, you say, I'm just asking questions.
Yeah. All right. Hey, look, I'm being mean to you, okay? This is bullshit. They sold more than 2.
I don't think you're being mean. I just think you're being a,
Well, I'm trying to, get an example of me. Okay. Anyway.
Give people, okay. Ryan says about 60% of the goggles sold with it. Ryan, do you want to comment on the total number of goggles that were sold in the pre-order? We know it was at least 315.
That's true.
We know it's so. Again, I'll give him the chance to say if he wants to, and keep us on this story before we move on. Happy for sure. I don't often respond to chats like this during the news because the point of the news is not. I have Q&A live streams for that. But happy for sure. You have emailed me and messaged me and commented on my YouTube channel asking me for a review about the new Radiomaster RP3 receiver. What is it you want to know about this receiver? Is there something special about this receiver? I don't know. Tell me what you think is interesting and special about this Express LRS receiver compared to others, or what it is you want to know. Tell me in an email, though. And we're going to... It just goes to show that if you bombard me enough, eventually I will acknowledge you. No.
I think
He
that's
says...
the TXCO in it, but I don't... TCXO in it, but I don't remember.
Yes, that is cool. That is cool,
okay.
Actually. Ryan says 500 plus 100 in the beta. Okay. So 600 total. Yeah, it's a good number.
Great.
Well, what is this nifty shirt that I'm wearing today? This is the Project Mockingbird shirt from Patrick Clark.
Oh, that's a nice shirt.
I think he still sells it. You know, unfortunately, Project Mockingbird was also a CIA project. And when you try to look up Project Mockingbird, Patrick Clark's project, it's a little hard. He has merch, and I think you can buy this exact shirt. Nope. No, you can't. Oh, wow. Can you not buy this shirt?
Exclusive.
Oh, I don't know where this came from. Honestly, I don't. I mean, he sent it to me is probably where it came from. Maybe this was a limited edition. Oh, well. I was going to tell you where to get it. You can't get it. I'm selling mine for $200. Okay, let's move on, Blunty, to the next story. This time, rumors about the DJI Goggles 2 and the O3 Air Unit. What do we got?
Yeah, so we've got a post from Drone and a post from Aceta LV, our two main Twitter DJI leakers, who typically are correct or at least have good information. So the first one is from Drone, and he says Air Unit is coming soon. We know that the O3 Air Unit is coming soon, but the new goggles, the Goggles 2, will have a Lite version. The Lite version will be like the Goggles 2, but they'll remove the touchpad and the head tracking, and that's what he's got as far as info there. And I did confirm this from another source. This does exist, the Lite goggles. He didn't give me any more info than what's here. But I was kind of wondering if they're going to remove more than the touchpad and head tracking and try to make this like a cheaper option to get in, you know.
Well, theoretically, the goggles, the V2 FPV goggles are the cheaper option. Like you speculated maybe they would put an LCD screen instead of an OLED screen. And I'm like, well, they kind of already have that goggle, don't they?
Kind of. That is true. Yeah. It depends on what we imagine the life cycle of the V2 will be. And if they will, like the rumors said a few months ago, if they will eventually end the V2, or if they are going to continue to plan on it. Like if they do the backwards compatibility in the goggles too, like we talked about, like they promised in December, then that we might see the sunset on the V2, because there's not really a reason to have the V2 if the goggles 2 can do everything.
Yeah. I mean, that would also be the sunset of the Vista and the Air Unit then. I mean, that would all go together.
Backwards compatibility, right? So that's the thing.
They did. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
They promised it. They haven't done it yet, but they promised it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I mean, I'm all for saving money, and it does sound like, I don't know about the touchpad. Like, fine, take the touchpad out, give me a joystick. I don't care. But it sounds like they're taking out some of the things that are basically used with the Avata for FPV pilots.
Yeah.
Although Mad Max FPV says a head tracker costs like 50 cents, and the touchpad probably costs like $1.
That's part of why
what
I'm
are they really
speculating about
doing?
Other things being removed, because a Lite, it doesn't really seem like much point in just removing a couple small components to the goggles, you know.
Yeah.
So, and then because this takes extra work, because then they have to produce a new SKU and produce boxes and like track them and stock them. Like there's got to be a reason. So yeah, for me, I think you're going to see more missing. I just don't know what that more is, right?
And we don't know a price on these either, so we can't really even begin to speculate.
Yeah.
Okay. But we know that they exist. All right. And then we've also got this post from Aceta LV. No check mark for Aceta LV. Interesting. So it seems like a whole lot of verified accounts I've been seeing on Twitter lately. I don't know. So weird. Well, anyway, we probably not worth mentioning. Aceta LV says that a new O3 Air Unit coming in next week and a new goggles compatible with it. A light version without touchpad but direction. I mean, I would take direction button over a touchpad, frankly. We've had rumors about the release date of the O3 Air unit before, Blunty. You think this one's legit or for real?
We're so close. I think that this, along with the other back-end rumors that I've heard, it is likely to release the week of the 21st, which is next week. We had heard the 17th. That was the last running number, like, as of, I would say, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And then as of a few weeks ago, I'd heard that got pushed to the week after that. So that would follow this week, and then we're still hearing that up to this date. So I would assume that we will see that O3 Air unit launch the week of the 21st. I would just say, as a broad idea, I feel like DJI is not very confident in this product. Because every other DJI product, we get tons of leaks and information, and there's tons of people have it on their desk or testing it or got this and that, and we've seen very little of that. So to me, that shows they don't have much confidence in it, or there's like another idea for how they do marketing on that product. Because I don't know. Every other thing we've seen launch, like the DJI, the FPV drone. And also with the Avata, we saw so many early leaks and people talking about it and pictures from underside and overside and around it. We've seen a little bit of that with the O3 Air unit, but as far as legitimate final pictures, we haven't really seen that many. And it hasn't seemed like a concerted leak push, from that side of things.
Was there a concerted leak push for the original Air unit?
I wasn't around, so I can't tell you that. I don't know.
And I'm having trouble remembering. I'm trying to decide if DJI handles their FPV product releases a little bit differently than their sort of mainstream drones.
Sure.
And I can't remember if there were like a lot of leaks and so forth, or if it was all just kind of under and then it was out. I don't know about that. It would be great if when it finally comes, we will know things about the size, the price, the image quality, and so forth. I mean, we know some of these things because there are people who are taking the Air unit out of the Avata and sticking it on drones. I know at least one, maybe two people who've done this just so they can get a drone that flies like in a freestyle drone or a bigger drone.
The other thing to mention is it seems like from what we're hearing, the Lite SKU will not be available as of next week. So if you want to use the O3 Air unit with its full 1080p, you will need to have goggles 2, the current ones, which costs whatever, I don't think they have an individual SKU actually still, but I think they're going to be $600 or $700, when they release a standalone versus the Lite, which, we don't know when that'll come out, but most people will probably want to buy that because they're not going to use the extra features, but that may not be out with the O3 Air unit. So that's something to consider.
Okay. Exciting to know. I've heard prices for the O3 Air unit. I've heard rumors in the $250 to $300 range, which is significant uptick from the current one. Although some people have argued that if it lets you get rid of your GoPros, then that's actually a net savings. Would you take go ahead.
I was just going to say that 250 to 300 comes from that singular leak we had a while back where they posted all the prices for all the units, and I believe their prices were correct for the Avata and for the other pieces of the bundles and stuff. So if that does follow, they had a range versus a single price, but 250 to 300, I do think that probably will be accurate.
So would you take the image quality of the Avata over a GoPro? I mean, you don't fly a ton of 5 inches, do you?
I also don't fly action cams when I do fly 5 inches. But I don't have a need for the action cam.
You're not the audience. Would you pay $300 for this thing? The Avata's image quality, penetration, etc.
Yes. Yeah, because it's like, especially here's what I'll say. I have V1 goggles, so no. But if you're most of the audience who's going to have a V2 goggle that should have an update on release to be able to bind with these, then yes, I think it's probably worth buying one of these. Like even with the fact that you're not getting too much difference in like increased like image, I think the fact that you're getting the increased penetration from the dual band and from the new technology and from the new chip, I think all those are going to be enough to make it quite a different experience. Yeah. And I don't know. One's not going to break the bank if you're already buying Air units and Vistas. I think you try one, you see how different it is, you see what it really changes, and then you kind of go from there if you're already an existing owner of the system,
Yeah. Will the V2 goggles, the older FPV goggles, be able... We know that they don't have the 1080p resolution. They only do 810p. Fine. Will they also have the increased range, or do they also have the increased range of penetration because of the dual band, etc.? They do the dual band with the FPV drone.
Yeah,
So-
we would assume, for the same reason the V2s can work with the Avata, I would assume like it'll all be the same idea. Like, I don't think there's any difference in signal with the Avata on the V2 and the goggles too.
Yeah.
But yeah, to my understanding, it's not there's no, they should operate the same way. There's no internal differences. Like, the chipset may be different, but the actual function of it and how they're communicating should not be different as far as that stuff goes.
Okay, well, I'm sincerely curious, because I remember when the original DJI FPV system came out, and it was $160-ish for the video transmitter and the camera, and that was such an uptick from what analog, even expensive analog stuff, would be. $50 for like a Unify VTX and $45 for like a high-end camera. It was such an uptick. It was 2x to 3x, but it was like, okay, it's 2x to 3x, but you got HD, you got digital, and a lot of people jumped on it, more than I thought. So here we're going now to a speculated $250 to $300 price range, which is another uptick. My God, $300 used to be an entire $200 used to be an entire quadcopter. $300 you could get an analog quad for. You're basically paying quadcopter prices for just the video transmitter and the camera. And yet, I wonder if I'm going to be surprised yet again at how many people end up just buying this for their whole fleet and converting over to it. Rich people, probably.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at the amount of people who have 10 5-inch drones for no reason, or even 4.
What do you mean no reason?
Right?
I have a good reason for all of them.
My viewpoint would be, if you could spend $300 to $400 for another build to test out your different motors or do a different frame build or whatever you've got going on, you can sacrifice one of those to have better video. I mean, I don't know. I mean, those people are all going to make their own decisions, but where my head is at is I would gladly give up a drone or two to have better quality video, better penetration, all those kind of things.
I see your argument. Your argument, I see. You went a different direction. I thought where you were going was, if you have 10 quadcopters, then that's $3,000. That's an extra $1,000 that you have to pay to get the new one. But your argument is that's only like 2 or 3 fewer quads, and you get much better video and range of penetration. That's interesting.
Yeah. If you're already slinging a new quad all the time and like, hey, I want to build a new quad, I'm going to buy a new quad. Like, it shouldn't be that difficult for you to go, like, instead, I'm going to save a quad and buy it.
Maybe.
So,
Blunty, does anybody know? I don't know if you know the answer. I know I don't. The DJI FPV remote controller, the gray one, works with the Avata. Do we know if it is rumored to also work with the standalone O3 Air unit? Does anyone know?
My understanding is it does not at all.
So that surprises me, because, I mean, if it works with the Avata, it's binding to the Air unit to work with the Avata. Why wouldn't it work with the standalone?
Well, you might remember we got promised that we would get motion control support on the original Air unit in Vista, and I think it was an original Dobo video by a DJI executive. I think it could have bound. I think it could have bound if they wanted it to bind at any point. But I don't like that. That's where I'm going with that. I don't think it has anything. I think there's nothing you can really do with it because they don't own the quad, Like, what data
But
is
I don't mean the motion
out?
Controller. No. I don't mean the motion controller.
The V2 controller.
The actual controller. I see. No. See, there was a confusion.
Gotcha.
The motion controller can't work without integration with the flight controller and position
Correct.
and so forth. That's impossible.
Yes.
But the standalone, the little gray gamepad style controller.
Yeah.
Do we think
my
that'll bind?
understanding is all the builds up until like a month ago, it did not work with. And it apparently worked with the V1 controller that isn't even in production anymore. That's what I was hearing.
Interesting.
But I have not talked to any of my inside sources who have used a V2 controller with the O3 Air unit. It's possible that they are on older builds and that there are newer builds that it works with. I do not know. But I know as of like a month or two ago, those builds did not work with the V2 controller.
There has to be a controller that will work.
Like when we saw, like, iFlight posted pictures that I'm testing the new Air unit, and it was with the iFlight Commando radio, So, like, I don't know, but like my understanding is that it didn't work not that long ago. So I hope it will. There's no
There-
reason I would think
there
it wouldn't.
there has to be a
But,
controller
yeah.
that works with it, because
agree with that.
Junus in
Yeah.
the chat says there is definitely S-Bus stuff in the code.
There's definitely an
And-
S-Bus wire. I can tell you that
Yeah.
too. Like, yeah.
And DJI wouldn't force you to use a third-party controller and receiver.
Yeah.
So presumably it's going to be the V2 controller that works with
Yes.
the Avata, but we don't know
the
that
obvious,
for sure.
the obvious information would be that we just can't tell you that 100%.
Okay. Okay. Well, I hope that that's true, and I hope that next week or the week after we are cheering that the O3
Yeah.
Air unit is out and the backwards compatibility has
I'll
been
just say
delivered
this.
and yada yada yada.
For the lack of leaks that we have, they're everywhere. I mean, iFlight has had them in bind and flies for a month or 2 months or maybe longer. They've been sending them out to people. I know multiple creators have bind and fly iFlights. So they're out there.
Yeah.
I have to assume if it's not soon, like it's got to be real soon. They're
Yeah.
going to be doing it as soon as they can push it out, I think.
Okay.
So,
All right. Looking forward to it. Next up, we talked about HDZero. We talked about DJI. So that only leaves Walksnail. And
yes.
who am I leaving out? Analog. Ugh. That's a joke. Some of you guys don't understand my humor and take me way too seriously. That's a joke. Analog is fine. What's the Walksnail news, Blunty?
All right, so Walksnail sent out an email, like I think it was about 10, 11, 12 days ago, something like that, because we didn't do a show last week. But we're bringing you this information. So as of like 10, 11, 12 days ago, around the beginning of November, a couple of days in, they had sold 1,500 sets of VRXs, which is a pretty big number.
A giant number.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big number. We were just talking about 600 HDZero goggles and being impressed. Of course, the HDZero goggles come in at $600. This is a $200 kit, so much more accessible.
Also a pre-order, though. This is also the same situation where they're getting them early December. They're pre-ordering for an early December order.
Yeah.
But we also got this month, they've been doing deals. We talked about their other deals that we're doing. I wanted to let you know they are doing a couple more deals that seem to be going through all of November. The first one is that they are doing a combo, $159 off the combo if you want to get 2 avatars and the goggles. So this is like a goggles bundle. It's been hard to get those cheaper. I mean, Fat Truck's been trying to push them down, but and then the last combo, the last thing we have here is another deal where they're bundling drones with them. So if you were trying to get the Beta FPV or GepRC or FlyWoo with the next order, if you scroll down to that one, you could also get those as an option. So.
Nice. I feel like Cadix/Walksnail is feeling the pressure from the impending release of the O3 Air unit, which has been sort of coming soon forever, and probably from the HDZero system as well. And they are trying to build as big a user base of customers as they can, and I think that it's probably working. I mean, a lot of people seem to be jumping on it.
Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely pushing it hard, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see on the other end of it how much feedback we get from people using it and how powerful the system is and stuff. But I'm sure they got to be. It seems like from all the sales that we've been seeing, stuff's not selling well. We've seen a lot of these avatar sales. We've seen a lot of that before this.
Rotor Riot pushing it with the 30-day money-back guarantee.
Yeah, REG's got it on Black Friday sale. I'm not sure if that's because of this or not, but they're also doing a $150 gift card if you buy them from RDQ. So
and the thing is, like, you don't have to say just because there's a promotion, oh, therefore it must not be selling well. But when there's a promotion, when in 2020 when you tried to buy a graphics card, there were no promotions on graphics cards. You were paying 2x or 3x retail because everybody wanted them.
If they're all selling, nobody's doing a promotion. That's just facts.
Why would they do that?
Yeah.
So the fact that they're doing promotions does indicate that they're not selling as fast as they might like. But I think the right thing to do in that case is promotions like this. And it remains to be seen how much of people's hesitation is because they're worried and then end up being happy, and how much of it is because they just don't believe in the product and don't want it. I definitely have seen people posting and saying, "Oh, I really like this." Some of them.
It seems like as long as they keep pushing the Walksnail system, I mean, I guess it depends on where O3 air unit lands, but the cost of it seems likely that Walksnail will always have a niche there, especially if DJI pushes away from the air unit Vista world.
That's the big one.
RunCam continues to say, they made another post, I didn't pull, but they made another post reassuring everyone they will continue to have air units and Vistas, or Vistas especially.
Canucks made that same post.
Right.
Canucks made that same post, and then, no.
But Walksnail definitely, I think, has a niche. They are drawing people who are basically interested in open source, but they're not open source, which I think is interesting. They've actually kind of been against anybody working on their system. I think maybe for legal reasons, we don't know. But like we talked about before, they changed the root password when people were doing stuff to the goggles. So while they are user focused, they're taking a lot of feedback. They're trying to improve the system. They're not like actually doing anything open source. They're not like, so it's kind of riding the gap. Whereas HDZero we're seeing is going to go totally open source as long as they follow their promises. Now that the goggles are shipping, we should see that happen pretty soon. I don't know. It'll be interesting, the whole kind of ecosystem and market we have here. But I do think there's room for Walksnail. If they keep pushing, they keep progressing, they keep putting these goggles and VRXs in people's hands and keep producing VTXs. I think there's room for them to continue to grow the user base.
I think they know that once you commit to the goggles, then you're incentivized to buy a bunch of video transmitters and build out your fleet. And maybe, even if maybe it's not the system that you would have 100% preferred, maybe it was the number 2 system. Once you've got it, you're going to kind of tend to stick with it. And I think that's part of their motivation for trying to get people to commit to it and buy it. I definitely think that if DJI moves away from the V2 system and the Vistas and the air units dry up, which everybody says is not going to happen, but everybody says a lot of things, and then sometimes things happen, that's going to be a big benefit, a big boon for Walksnail, because they're going to totally fill that gap.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Yep. If DJI keeps making the V2 goggles and the Vistas and the air units, I think Walksnail has a much, much harder job to convince people that they're better, because they're so similar.
I mean, the thing Walksnail has to do is continue to do this. Caddx has to continue to push the system like this. Like, it can't be just like November, December, January, and then there's like a trickle off where they stop doing the user interaction, they stop doing the feedback, and they stop doing the betas. Like, I think this system will live or die by that interaction with users and that like back and forth and that like pushing the system every little tiny inch they can, and every single user feature that can be software added, they need to be adding. Like that will win them the market share that they have to survive, I think. Like, if they stop any of that, I really don't. I don't know, like 6 months to a year. I don't think there's like, I don't know how much legs it has.
Uphill slog is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And DJI is not going to make it easy for them. But kudos to them, Blunty. I mean, not to reminisce and get like old Grandpa Joshua, but I remember when we all thought, and I don't think I was alone in this, we all thought that we looked at things like Connex ProSight. And we're like, well, yeah, it's not, there's some problems with it. And then DJI comes out and we're like, oh, well, sure, DJI can do it, I guess. But surely no one else could do it. And now we've got Walksnail, we've got HDZero, we've got, so that's pretty much it. But it's nice to see other people doing it. It's a very interesting time to be alive. There's no doubt.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Alrighty. Let's see. Next up, we are going to just let you guys know that the GoPro Mini has finally shipped. It has been sort of promised and teased and pushed back. And Blunty, you've got some links here to reviews of the GoPro Mini.
Yeah, a couple impressions and reviews that I pulled. We got Stinger Swarm, pulled it out, and he's been finally a little bit before about Stinger Swarm. He uses the Action 2, primarily. Oh. He's avoided using GoPros for a while since I think the Hero 9. He stopped using GoPros because he doesn't like the weight, and he prefers the Action 2 for the weight, and he just deals with it. So in this video, he goes and tries it out. He gives it a shot, weighs it on the scale, and all that kind of stuff. And kind of a spoiler alert here, but at the end, he's decided that he will stick with the GoPros, and he'll be using the Mini over the Action 2.
Well, good, because the Action 2 looks like dog shit. And I've argued with him about this. And he says it's good enough and it's super durable and it's lightweight and I like it. And I'm like, yeah, but it looks like dog shit. So nice, Singer Swarm. Thanks for acknowledging that I was right. That's not. God damn, his camera. He's got that depth of field, baby. That's Sony. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah,
we got that one, and then I pulled another one. I think this other one is interesting because he goes over some of the features and compares it to the Hero 10. This is David Manning's video. And he shows one thing which I think is pretty odd, and I guess people should know this before they buy this camera. I mean, people probably already pre-ordered this, but for some reason the app is different. So when you go into the GoPro app and do the controls, if you scroll to like 7.5, 8 minutes, I think 8 minutes is where that segment starts. He shows the app, but basically for some reason the app has different settings if you're on a GoPro Hero 11 full size from a Hero 11 Mini. And so if you've used a Hero 11 full size or a Hero camera, you know that when you pull up in the Hero, you can click on a shooting mode, and then it gives you a list of settings. So if you keep playing there, he'll pop it up, and it'll be super familiar for anybody who's used it before. But basically, you click it, and then it'll show the list like he pops up here, right? So that's a list of all the presets that you have that you want to use in that shooting mode.
Yeah.
For some reason, the Mini does not have this. And
it doesn't have the presets at all?
It has one preset for each mode. Here's the Mini. So you can see the Mini, and he's just got one button down there. And then when you click the button, it gives him a list of all the modes with a single preset for each mode. And so I don't know why they did this or why it's different. But for some reason...
Isn't that different. How the previous... Like, I've got some 8s and 9s. I got 8s and a 10. And when I bring up those presets, there are predefined presets like action and so forth, and you can modify them. And then you can also create your own presets, I think, but I never do. I always just have the action preset for flying and then the cinematic preset for everything else. But once you make those changes, they stick, right?
Yeah. So on the Mini, it'll just stick for the single profile that you have.
Can you make new profiles?
You cannot. That's the thing. Like if it's just that profile, you're overwriting the same profile. So like if you shoot like 5K 30 here and then 1080p 60 here, you have to edit and change the settings every time you go to change those shooting, or you need to make QR codes in the GoPro Labs app. Yeah. And then use it. But there's no reason that the app cannot be changed to just have the same profiles and settings. I don't really understand the difference. So I'm assuming GoPro hopefully will fix that.
Yeah.
But
well, so hopefully GoPro will fix it. I personally use the app, the GoPro BLE remote, the GoPro Bluetooth remote app, which lets you configure. It's a third-party app that lets you configure your GoPros via Bluetooth, and you can set up profiles. Also, as you pointed out, most people running GoPros for professionally certainly are running the GoPro Labs firmware, which lets you set up QR codes that you hold in front of the camera. So this is a solvable problem.
I'll just say as well, we should give GoPro credit. If you scroll down, the first comment on his video is from GoPro, so that is somewhat promising.
Yeah. Oh, so Blunty, so I don't have this camera. I haven't reviewed it. I may review it. I may not. I wouldn't. I don't know. But I mean, I'm running Hero 8s, and that's fine for what I do. So, but the big question is it basically just a Hero 11 in a smaller form factor without a screen, or are there any sort of surprise gotchas that anybody called out?
It seems, other than the app deal, the non-removable battery, like other than the obvious pieces, no, there's no difference. Okay. But they're like, you're going to have lower battery time. Your battery's not going to be removable. You're going to have different app settings and a couple different like little tiny things, I think. But majorly, it does seem like a similar camera.
Okay. And at a lower weight. Of course, we also have to point out that I have talked to people, I don't know about you, and who tell me that they are personally testing the new Session 6, which is an even lighter weight, smaller camera, a remake of the Hero Session. That we have no date on, but it is a real thing that exists in at least prototype form. And so if you are waiting for an even lighter weight version of a GoPro, that you don't settle for the Hero 11 Mini if you actually want something that's closer to the weight of a Session. It is coming. We don't know when. But that's cool. We got some links in the video description as well, Blunty, for people who want to know more about our thoughts or my thoughts about it. Some links over to the Joshua Bardwell livestream clips channel, in case you guys didn't know. The news and clips and highlights from my live stream are over here. I talked for 5 or 10 minutes about the Hero 11, and we had a news clip, Blunty. You and I chatted about the release of the Hero 11 and the DJI Action 3, and we thought there was a very clear winner between them. That's linked over at the Joshua Bardwell livestream clips channel. Would love to have you guys head over there and subscribe. Links down in the video description below. I'll put a link to that video in the chat right now. If you guys want to. Don't check that out now. Stay here. Keep watching the stream. But we'll give that a little plug. Okay. Where to next, Blunty?
Next up, we've got a returning creator who's here to show us a follow-up from a video he did before. You might remember that we looked at a chasing drone. This guy put a fifth motor on his drone, and I was confused because I thought it went backwards. I thought it was to slow you down, right? So you could maintain the same speed without tilting from the speed change. You could just pull, right? And then we explained it wasn't like that, it was push. But he heard our news show.
Oh.
And he changed it.
He's like, oh, pulling. That's a good idea.
He's like, that's absolutely right. He's like, oh, that seems interesting. Let's try it out. So he put it on a 3D ESC instead. And he changed his slider to be totally 3D. And and he gave it a shot. He hasn't been able to chase cars yet, but he did testing across a field in his video here. And he got some pretty good results. So I really I think it's interesting. He's basically starting to create like another I don't know what you want to call it. I guess axis, but another like way to manipulate the drone, you know? And I imagine like the other sticks, it would start to become second nature if you use it all the time, you know?
Yeah. So what this is letting you do is change the speed of the drone independent of its tilt angle, which is especially useful when you're chasing because you need to be pitched down to look at the car. But then if the car is getting away from you, you want to accelerate without pitching down further and losing the framing. And likewise, it can decelerate you into the turns. You normally have to pitch back to decelerate. And it just gives you that little bit of extra manipulation. And we can see here, he is tweaking this slider. We can see his speed readout.
Yeah, he's doing back and forth runs. Basically, he's trying to like, you know, with the brake and then without the brake, and he's trying to see how far he goes if he like stops at the same spot by like, you know, his pitch manipulation of the angle and then him not pitch manipulating the angle and just using the brake. Yeah,
because of course when you slow down a quadcopter by pitching back, you're essentially relying on air resistance and drag. You have no braking whatsoever, and that's why like when quadcopter pilots or FPV pilots are about to crash, we pitch back like this and hit the throttle and bounce off the wall or whatever. But he has the ability to just use that backwards facing propeller to drag himself and slow himself down. I think it's more interesting though to like add a small amount of fixed drag to slow you down in a way, rather than doing anything too ridiculous. Let's see here.
Yeah. Seems pretty neat to me.
It is. Wow, the mods are really jumping on this guy in the chat. He was spamming his question, but did he get a timeout? I'm not going to argue with the mods. Jeez. Oh. Mike Bergman, short fuse today.
Dwayne in the chat asks, why not tilt the camera with a servo to compensate? I'm sure there's a good reason. I would guess that's going to be less precise. It's not going to be tied to the same like axis exactly. You're going to get some differential there, so you're not going to get a smooth movement. You're going to get a somewhat smooth movement, right? And then I'm going to guess, it's going to be latent. So it's going to lag behind how fast the motors could change. Yeah. So,
The other thing is that you're going to end up with a situation where your up tilt angle changing makes it hard to control the drone predictably. I ran into this when I was flying with the Medlin drone. Anytime you're flying and your up tilt angle changes,
Yeah.
Like you would mean to level out, and instead you're drifting backwards, and you're like, why am I drifting backwards? And it's because your up tilt angle is weird. Or you would pitch forward, meaning to fly forward, and instead you just be like,
Yeah,
And
so you're either going to have two issues here. You're either going to be moving your frame of reference to move the camera, or you're going to be moving your camera independent of frame of reference, and you're not going to know your shooting angle, which are both going to be a problem, right?
So this lets you keep your camera angle consistent, meaning you get that consistent, precise control, but you're just manipulating your speed by pulling the drone back or forward. Of course, if we look here, we can see that the motor is not always going to be pulling straight backwards, depending on the drone's angle. We're making some assumptions about the camera angle and the motor angle.
I could be wrong. I think he's making that mount. If he's not, I bet he should make that mount so that the motor is always 180 degrees opposite the camera, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yes. And that's what it looks like on this build. If you look how he has it set up, it may be coincident or it may be on purpose, but it does look like he has it set up with that specifically in mind. So I think, like you said, if you do this, if you do change that angle, you would want to change that back mount probably.
Yeah. The other thought that I have, and he's surely thought of this as well, but we just spout off on the news. That's what we do, is that it's not pulling through the CG. So it's going to introduce a rotational force that is going to then need to be counteracted by the PID controller, meaning that the front motors will have to speed up. And I bet that if it were somehow able to be mounted so it was pulling through the CG, it would work even better.
Oh, I see it like almost like down towards the middle of the quad, almost like under it or something.
Correct.
But but you almost couldn't. At some point, you're going to block it. Yeah, you got to kind of find a balance there. But I wonder if there's a better position to meet that CG, or if it's just so easily handled by the PIDs, it's not a problem.
Maybe. Yeah. I'd be kind of interested to try this out. Where does this guy live? Is he in the USA? I mean, you could always ship something, I guess.
I don't think he is.
Yeah. Shipping internationally is more expensive.
At the end, he talks about, he's asking people to support him doing the testing, but it's in a foreign language. So I think he's in another country.
Okay. It's a very interesting situation. Okay. We got one event this week, Blunty. The very first Tiny Trainer Series race of the season.
Yeah, we wanted to let you know the Tiny Trainer races are kicking off. Of course, it is winter. And with winter comes the Tiny Trainer Series. So if you're in Kingston, Tennessee, this weekend, I guess, right? You can participate in the Tiny Trainer Series 1 race. And all the requirements are here. And that's in Grove Church. That's at Grove Church. So.
You will need to have a Tiny Trainer, in case people don't realize. Tiny Trainer is a spec racing series. So you have to have specific frame, motors, etc. All that stuff is down there on the race information, and it's linked in the video description. People are probably also going to ask if I'm going to be there. This is my home turf. Unfortunately, the date was set. I didn't get enough notice. My wife has something planned for that day, so I will have the kids. I guess there's a non-zero chance I will drag the kids out, but I won't be flying as much as I would like to. But I'm going to try and make sure I make the next one. Apparently all of the series is going to be in the Knoxville area this time. At least that's what Evan Turner told me. So hopefully I'll be able to make one of the next ones and get out there, but not this one, unfortunately.
Cool.
Last up, we've got a segment we call It's Barely News, which are items we thought were kind of newsworthy, but that we don't have like a lot of stuff to say about them. Is that about right, Plenty?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. So first up, we've got a story from Pyrodrone. We wanted to let you know that Pyrodrone is making gimbals for the Tango 2 and the Mambo, and they're CNC gimbals.
Oh, so all those jealous AGO1 pilots, all the TBS pilots who are jealous of the AGO1 gimbals that Radiomaster pilots were getting can now, well, not now, will soon be able to get a nice CNC metal gimbal for their radios as well. That is very interesting. We don't really have any more information, do we, Blunty, other than these photos?
Yeah, that's about all we got to go on. We got to find out, when they release and how that all goes.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll definitely follow up on that. But we thought you guys out there, so many Tango and Mambo pilots ask me, can I put AG01 gimbals in them? And you can't, because the way that the Tango and the Mambo interface with their gimbals is clever and novel, but it also means that it only works with that style of gimbal. And so it's nice that Pyro is moving forward with this. I'm sure a lot of people will be excited.
Yeah.
What's next?
All right, next we've got another follow-up. This one to, we talked about that spinning drone quite a few times.
Woo! Yes, we did.
And he's got some more solutions for controlling them. Basically, he's been continuing to try to do control and getting him more dialed in and figure stuff out. But now he's figured out, basically, through his periodic control, he's figured out a way to get it to do directional control now.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I guess it makes sense that if you're getting the majority of your lift from the wings themselves, that losing a motor shouldn't really stop you from being able to keep flying.
Yeah, it's efficient enough, actually, you can lose 2.
You can lose 2 and still stay in the air.
Yep, he can see. Yep, pretty cool.
And then as soon as you stop spinning, you're done. You're falling out of the air. But
yeah, you're done. Exactly, yeah.
Terminal Insanity asks, what's the point of that? Now, that was my first reaction too, was like, this is cool and weird, but what's the point? One of the things, if you go to Nicholas Ream's channel, you can see he shows that it is significantly more efficient in terms of battery life to have one giant rotating propeller instead of a bunch of little tiny ones. Like, I think 3 times more efficient.
Yeah,
if I
or something
right.
like that. Yep.
But also, I feel like he's dancing around this idea, and eventually he's going to stumble into something incredibly cool and useful that nobody saw coming.
Sure. Well, I mean,
but I don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, already, something we talked about was just the idea of loitering drones. If you've got a loitering drone that's going to loiter for a lot of its time, then it does seem like it would be good if it could spin and be way more efficient while it was loitering. So in applications where you need a loitering drone that can spin, seems like it'd be a great improvement. And then you kind of go from there, right? So maybe there's other ways to get it to be more efficient here and there. And, he uses wings so that in forward flight, like we talked about last time, it's still more efficient than it would be as a quad and stuff. So yeah, a lot of neat innovations there. And you kind of got to do this stuff, right? To figure stuff out.
Mike Bergman says Brotherman is in the chat. Does he mean Nicholas Ream is in the chat? Surely not. Oh, he is in the chat. Nicholas Ream is here. Wow, Nicholas, very cool. I want a fractal quad, Blunty, a fractal aircraft. What I mean by that is, I want the 5-inch props to have little 2-inch props on them, and then the 5-inch props to be connected to a great bigger prop. You see where I'm going?
Yes.
Yeah. This is that. Remember we were talking about you being mean to me? Your lack of I feel personally attacked by your lack of enthusiasm about my joke. Somehow I feel more attacked by your fake laughter. Go back to
that's the other option.
As you were, I take it back. Your disinterest is less insulting than your feigned enthusiasm. Honesty always the best policy, I guess. All right. Okay. All right. Check out Nicholas Ream's video linked in the video. You can make one of these if you are silly enough to try to do that. Scattering ashes by drone. Definitely barely news, right? Blunty, from now on, Blunty, whenever, and I'm not trying to bring up stuff we talked about before the show on the air, but I just want to get in. Whenever we have a conversation and you say, I don't really think that's newsworthy. Scattering ashes by drone apparently made a cut of a kind.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of this?
I have never heard of it. You're
there
right.
You go.
It's
and
newsworthy.
It's barely news, so this is the place to be, right?
What the?
So, a former RAF pilot started a business where he does this for families. So, families have decided that one of the ways they they want to say bye to their family members, is to do it in a kind of a spectacular fashion by going up in the air and flying a drone and dropping the ashes down. So
there we go.
I'm just gonna
All
say
right. That's cool.
that this seems rife for someone to do, like in movies and like comedy shows and stuff where they throw the ashes and they come back and hit them.
Yeah.
This seems like you could easily ash a crowd of people by accident,
depending on which way the wind was going.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, if I was to, pass away and be cremated, would I want my ashes scattered by drone? Or would that be like too... I think what I would like is for them to be impregnated into a carbon fiber sheet, and then a freestyle frame cut out of the carbon fiber sheet, and then turned into a drone that you don't fly. You just set it on the shelf. Think of me. What frame should it be? Like should it be a Source One?
I don't know.
I don't know. Probably QAVS, my frame. Probably makes a lot of sense there. Then flown into a volcano. No, that's it. Now that's probably illegal to intentionally fly a drone into a volcano because it's littering or disrespectful to the gods. But that's it. That's what I would prefer. If you take my ashes, maybe drop the ashes into a volcano by drone. Could you do that? People who live in Iceland, let me know. Can you throw ashes into a volcano? Seems like you could. I mean, if you weren't ashes before, you could be ashes after.
It's true.
Oh, that's it. Throw my corpse into a volcano and let the volcano cremate me. Sounds kind of awesome. I'm sorry, I've lost. We're off track. Drones being used in hurricane relief efforts. Always good to have stories of drones doing positive things in the world. Personally, I just spy on my neighbors while they sunbathe in their backyard, as all drone pilots do. But apparently, they have other uses too, like this one. Oops.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Let's try again. Let's try this.
Here, I got another one in there.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, so basically, Skydio has been putting out drones for relief efforts for the hurricanes, and it's been really helpful for them. They basically, didn't really know. We've seen drones were used in relief efforts. It's been getting more and more kind of popular, but there's a lot of cases where, you don't want to go out to do inspections or to do checks or to do whatever in floodwaters and in dangerous situations. You don't want to put people out there, or you don't want to fly a helicopter. Drones are much easier. So they're using these all the time, basically, to do all kinds of different missions where they're going out and checking stuff out and finding stranded people and communicating and doing all kinds of stuff. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. With more of these floods happening and more hurricanes, being able to get out there and literally look at your neighbors in their backyard, but for humanitarian purposes.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Good to see people doing that. We've got, we're always interested in drones being made out of weird things. Here we've got a drone made out of sticks. A stick drone.
Yeah, we've talked before about different things. I think we've seen like a helmet, and I don't know, we've seen quite a few different things with the drone, with drone motors attached and flying. And this is no different. So if you complain about your quad, you could be flying sticks,
I mean, it's flying. It is.
Of course.
It is flying. And then I see. And then we got this loading screen. Oh yeah, no. I don't know how good it's flying, but just got some sticks. We got some sticks and we turned them into a drone.
I don't think you're running under one filtering, but
yeah, I was going to say Chris Rosser is very upset right now.
Yeah. Can we get him to do FEA on that?
Oh. I mean, you need to know things about the characteristics of the wood that I don't think you can possibly know. Very cool. Did you know, Blunty, that in Geneva, eagles are being trained to attack drones and take them out of the air?
I did know that because I put the story in the list, but it was pretty cool. But they're stopping it.
Oh. Damn. I was just...
So we wanted to let you know, if you were... if you had heard this story or whatever, they've been doing this for like 5 years now. And trying to use eagles to intercept drones. And I think they've realized this is not going to work out. And it's probably not the best to have a drone attacking a flying, or eagles attacking a flying drone.
Now,
so they've stopped
I can think of a lot of reasons why this is a good idea. Like, eagles are very, very good at intercepting fast-moving objects in the air and taking them out of the air. And many drone pilots have had their eagles or raptors attack their drones and can vouch for this. Why is this a bad idea, though? Why did they stop doing it?
Because it's an eagle. I don't know. You don't want an eagle to fly into propellers, right?
Oh.
I think to me that seems like the reason, and that's sort of what they talk about, is that the birds were not safe in these situations. So
I had wondered that, but people said, "Oh no, the eagles can just avoid the props. They're fine." And I was like, "Really? Oh yeah, their eyesight's really good. They just reach out with their claw and just like snatch it." I
think they've determined that it's not accurate.
How many eagles lost their little talons as a result of this experiment? We may never know.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, so much for that great idea. We got one more. It's barely news. This one, I'm not going to say that this one makes me want to blank myself, because then we'll get demonetized and people will think I'm making light of self-harm. But this one totally, I just don't want to live in this world anymore, Blunty.
Well, we knew it had to happen, and it finally happened. We've had everything else in drones, and now we've got an ad as a drone light show. That's right. In Manhattan, on a Thursday night, Candy Crush put an ad in drones in the sky.
Like Candy Crush? Who still plays Candy Crush?
I think you would be shocked.
Probably wouldn't be. Like, Candy Crush came pre-installed on my phone. I immediately uninstalled it, and I got on with my life.
Candy Crush's revenue in 2021 was $1.21 billion, up from the year before.
With a B?
With a B, yes, sir. Yeah.
Candy Crush. $1.2 billion. Oh my God. This is like when my grandparents saw Elvis. And they were just like, nothing is right. It all just is. I gotta say, it's a very cool light show, though. I am impressed with the light show. It's extraordinary. Yeah, I'm sorry that it's being used to advertise a effing mobile game.
Oh, we'll be seeing so much more of this. Expect your night skies to be filled with drone light shows if you're in a major city advertising major brands. I'm sure that's going to happen. So.
All right. Fantastic. Hey, Excursion Sentier, stop with the nose. Disgusting. I'm sorry my breathing is bothering you. You can just stop watching the live stream if you're, here I am. I'm sick. I showed up to work to do the live stream. If my breathing is not to your liking, you can leave. You can get out of here. I hate it. Like, it's not people. I understand. If it's sipping or smacking, like, I might be like, yeah, okay, I get that, and not tell you to F off. But it's literally my breathing. What am I gonna do? I don't know. Doesn't matter, because the live stream's over. So everyone can just F off and leave, because the live stream's over. You don't have to F off, but you have to leave. Right after we do our plugs, isn't that what they say to do? Is before you plug your pluggables, you tell the audience, you swear at the audience and tell them to leave, and then you do your plugs?
I think that's correct, yes.
Okay. What are we plugging today, Blunty?
First up, we've got FPVknowitall.com, which is your website, where you can find an FPV shopping list. Or you can also find Search FPV, a tool where you can get you can get all your stuff figured out if you need to find items. We just
updated the high definition page to refer to anyone other than DJI, which used to, for a long time, it seemed like DJI was just the high definition thing. And now we've got DJI, we got Walksnail, we got HDZero, on there. Why is HDZero third? Shut up. Shut up. Wow, I'm in a shit mood at the end of the stream. I'm just telling everybody to F off. How about that? And we've got searchfpv.com, which just got, it's a multi-store search engine for FPV products like HDZero. You could search for it and see. And Iric just updated this to search all the stores in parallel, so you don't have to wait 45 seconds. Mupshot says Search FPV returns a lot of out of stock. Yeah, well, there's a lot of out of stock in the world, my friend. So it is what it is, but we just report and you decide. I think that's...
There is an in-stock only button. So.
Yeah, you could just choose in-stock only. It's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty good. And you can search for in-stock stuff. So that's searchfpv.com and fpvknowitall.com. We also would like to tell you about itsblunty.com, which is Blunty's website. You can sign up for one-on-one calls if you want to get some help fixing something. He'll get on a Zoom call or a phone call with you, and you can talk about drones to get your problems fixed. And he's got a Patreon you could sign up for if you want to make sure he can, support himself.
These are all true.
Yes. How's that going?
Going good. And last but not least, we got Joshua Bardwell livestream clips channel, which we mentioned to you earlier, but we want to make sure you know about. Where I post all the clips from your stream. So you do 2 streams, and then we do a stream, so we get 3 streams a week, and all the clips show up here.
Yeah, lots of good content. I talk about a lot of stuff, and you don't probably miss some of it, but here we go. People love the thumbnails, Blunty. So thank you for that, and thank you guys for being here. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you listened to me sniffle for the whole stream. And now we're gonna be done. So
yeah.
Thank
Absolutely.
you guys for coming out. Thank you, Blunty. We'll see you next week for more FPV news. Oh, one more thing. If you guys have news that we need to know about, email news@fpvknowitall.com. Right there. It's right there.
Sure.
People can't find it.
It is right there.
You just asked me, hey, can you put that in the video description?
I've had a few snarky responses when I've told them it's in the video, and they said, well, it should be in the description because I couldn't find it. I'm like, well, it's on the screen the whole show.
It's literally on screen for the entire show. And I was like, if they don't see it at the lower left corner of the screen, what makes you think they're going to be able to find it in the video description? And you were like... So anyway, email it in. That's going to do it. We're out of here. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.